Continuing now on Newsmax Prime, monitoring the Trump rally. It has yet to get underway in Indiana. This segment of our program, we want to get to your calls, and you can call me at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Now, since we live in the United States, the basic question, after all, is this: which presidential candidate would be better at unifying the country? Newsmax TV took to the streets of New York City earlier today to find out what you think.
I think Donald Trump will bring Americans together and we'd have a great president.
I think Donald Trump will bring Americans together.
I'm leaning towards Donald Trump.
What he says, he means, and he'll do what he says. And that's very important.
A lot of his ideas, I think we need a major change. And the last 8 years, it's just spending. It's too big of a government that's going on right now.
I think Donald Trump will actually unite us more because we will all hate him and be embarrassed.
I think Hillary would be better at bringing Americans together.
I'm going to lean a little bit towards Hillary.
Definitely Hillary.
I feel maybe Hillary has a little bit of slight more advantage.
I will say Hillary Clinton.
There's a lot of different ethnicities and stuff that aren't offended by Hillary, but they are by Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is always putting other people down.
I'm not sure either of them will bring Americans together.
I feel that neither one could unify.
Neither. I don't think it's possible to unify people who are so divided.
He's controversial, but I say we need a man like that to guide America and make it great again.
And while those on the street in New York City, and really all of us, ponder our choice for November, it is worth noting our current president appeared with his predecessor today at the memorial in Dallas for the 5 fallen officers there. To talk more about that, we're joined by a detective who serves a department in the Dallas area, Nick Selby. He is joining us via Skype. Nick is the author of the book In Context: Understanding Police Killings of Unarmed Civilians. Also joining us tonight, President and CEO of Metropolitan Protective Services, Derrick Parks. Derrick is joining us from Newsmax, Washington. Gentlemen, we thank you both for your time tonight on Newsmax Prime. Now, as mentioned earlier today, President Obama spoke to police officers and families of the fallen in Dallas to call for unity. Let's look and listen.
No matter how good their intentions may be, paints all police as biased or bigoted. We undermine those officers we depend on for our safety.
Let me go first to you, Nick, since you were there in the Dallas area. The president had some things to say that reconciled, and then he had some hostile things to say about the Second Amendment. Your take on his talk there today?
Well, I mean, I'm all for reconciliation. I think it's great. I think that seeing the president of the United States respectfully come down and talk about the value of police, especially in a city like Dallas, where you've seen just an amazing outpouring from the city. We were very, very full of pride that the people of Dallas really showed America how much they appreciate their police. That's not something new for Dallas. It was actually, this is the way it is down there in the whole Dallas area. We as officers enjoy tremendous public support. And I think that it's an interesting point when we talk about a shooting like this. A lot of times people will start to talk about gun control. You didn't hear anyone in Texas law enforcement blaming the gun. We were all very clear that we were talking about the person. And I think that to try to inject any kind of narrative about gun control into something as tragic as this, where people died for the right of the citizenry to protest police, I think that's at the very least, that part of it was disrespectful.
Derrick, let me turn to you. Agree with what Nick has to say, or do you have a different take?
No, I think he pretty much nailed it on the head. I think at this particular point, I just appreciate the fact that our Commander-in-Chief, current and past, took time out to recognize what a complete tragedy that this occurrence has, that it is. And at this particular time, that I think this may have to happen, have had to happen, in order to bring all of us to a particular point in which we can have real open discussions about how to make this whole thing move in a better direction.
Gentlemen, I'm going to take a telephone call now at 1-877-Newsmax to Elkin, North Carolina, and we welcome Jason to Newsmax Prime. Hiya, Jason.
Hey, Judy. How you doing?
I'm fine, sir. Your thoughts on the memorial service in Dallas today?
Sir, I would have to surmise it as this, is that listen to George Bush, former President George Bush, speak. It has, over the past 8 years, it has made us forget the regality of hearing a true president.
Well, you know, Jason, you mentioned former President Bush. Why don't we do this? Let's listen to some of what Bush 43 had to say. After all, he is now a resident of Dallas, and so what happened in his city carried a special relevancy and poignancy for the former president.
Today, the nation grieves, but those of us who love Dallas and call it home have had 5 deaths in the family. Laura and I see members of law enforcement every day. We count them as our friends. And we know, like for every other American, that their courage is our protection and shield.
Nick Selby, you wrote a column in the New York Times, and your words kind of stuck with me in much the same way hearing both Presidents Obama and Bush earlier today. Here's just a paragraph of what you wrote in that New York Times column. Friday morning, after our brothers were assassinated for being white and for being officers, the word was sent out. More protests are expected, and we must not interfere with them. And that is the way it should be. I guess my point is this, Nick. We all understand the right to peaceably assemble. But my good friend Mark Davis of K-Sky Radio, The Answer, was on this program the other night, and he said they talked about the rally being, quote, peaceful, yet the language was inciting violence against the police. So knowing that, tell me why you wrote what you did in the New York Times.
Well, I think I would disagree with that characterization of the protest, as at least the protest that was happening in Dallas. If you can get a hold of some video and take a look online at some of the videos, what you would see then is, first of all, I think it's very important to recognize that civil liberties and people's rights and constitutional rights in Texas, especially among Texas law enforcement, we consider those to be sacrosanct, and we would, in fact, just did die to protect the rights of the people to express themselves. And I think that that's very important. And it's also very important to understand that the Dallas Police Department actually helped arrange that protest, to protest shootings and treatment of people throughout the country, but really not so much in Dallas. But DPD thought that it was important enough to help organize that. I don't believe that the language was insightful of violence. I think that people were bringing out their kids. People were really having a very good time, and officers were chatting really, I think, amiably is the best word, with the protesters. And I think as soon as those gunshots rang out, that's when you saw DPD turn into action mode. They threw their bodies in front of those of the protesters. They got those protesters to safety, and then they recognized what was going on, and they took care of business.
And only a couple of minutes remain. Let me turn to Derrick Parks. Washington, D.C. has so many different police agencies and jurisdictions, yet Washington deals with protests so much of the time. Derrick, what's been the key to success on that? Can you give about 30 seconds of an overview on that?
Well, I think Washington's police chief, ever since Ramsey was here, and I know we have Lanier that's almost like his protege, they've been doing a very good job of getting intel and intelligence on a lot of these organizations that want to come in and do levels of protest. So they will do a lot of, how can we say, recon on the organizations that want to do protests, and then they will staff their staff according to the threat level and threat assessment, whether they're going to put additional people or how they're going to proceed with arrests and things of that nature.
Very good. Let me go to the phones. About 1:15 remaining. Let's go to Kansas for Marianne. Marianne, you got 45 seconds. Make them count.
Well, I just wanted to say that I thought the ceremony in Dallas was very nice today. It honored those people and their families, with the exception of the long speech from Obama, which was not necessary. The rest of it was great.
And even with that, thank you, Marianne, for your point. Gentlemen, and as one who used to serve in public office and certainly never giving a presidential address, I understand that President Obama worked on his speech today, took seriously, to his credit, some of the feedback he got yesterday for some of the language he has used in the past. And of course, we covered our concerns about the gun control argument inserted into that speech. That seems to be a common criticism. Gentlemen, no criticism from me tonight. Nick and Derrick, thank you for your input. We hope you will come back again in the days ahead as we discuss protesters and the police and our response here in this nation. There is more on Newsmax Prime right after this.